Hello, my name is Jerry Hicks. This is our lesson on interpreting key features of linear functions. Our student learning target is I can interpret the meaning of key features. We're focusing in on intercepts today of linear functions in the context of a real-world situation when given a graph of the function. Our student success criteria is to be able to use the 3 reads process to identify and label important information, highlight and focus in on the question, and then be able to write in one word or highlight the one word that will tell you what is a problem asking you to find, determine, or calculate. And then we're going to be able to use that labeling and that one word to help us figure out a plan of how to eliminate obviously wrong answers and then be able to choose from the remaining ones which answer best answers the question. I'm going to model this 3 reads process. The first read is just to read the question and the look at the graph or the table or the diagram, whatever they're giving us, and to get a general idea of what it's asking us, what it's about, what it's asking us to find. So I'm going to model this first read. Stacy was giving a presentation at a conference. She decided to give cookies away after every presentation as shown in the graph. Which statement is the best description of the y-intercept? Now, I'm not even going to focus in on the answer choices just yet, or even the question. I'm going to just give a general idea, get a general idea of what this is about. And I know in the STEM, I remember that it said something about presentations, conference, and cookies, because everybody likes to think about cookies. So I'm going to go back and now look at the graph, and yes, the title of the graph is Cookies at a Presentation. I can see that my x-axis, my horizontal axis that goes left and right, side to side, is labeled as presentations made. So those numbers like 1, 2, 3, and 6 are presentations. And my y-axis, which is the up and the down axis, and those numbers are labeled as cookies left. So the 180 and the 160 on that vertical up and down axis are 180 cookies, 160 cookies. That's what those are representing. So that just sort of gives us a general idea of what this problem is about, and that's the first read. The second read is really the bulk of it and of this process, and some people call it the mind dump. It's really to look at the graph or the chart, whatever it gives you, and annotate and write and label anything that you know about that graph, because the problem with word problems a lot is not being able to answer them, but to be able to get started. And the mind dump helps us to get started. So what I'm looking at when I see this graph, knowing that the lesson is about intercepts and we've already covered just identifying intercepts, I can identify the intercepts. So I'm going to do the y-intercept in red, and I can see that the y-intercept is where that very black line coming down is touching or crossing or intersecting my horizontal y-axis, and that is happening right here at 180. So I'm going to put a red dot on it just to make it a little bit bigger and draw attention to it, and I'm going to label that spot is my y-intercept. And then I'm going to do another technique that's a variation of highlighting. Instead of grabbing a highlighter and highlighting, I'm just going to circle that number 180 to draw my attention to it. And I'm going to draw an arrow down to the y-axis label, since this is the y-intercept, and I'm going to circle that label so that I can remind myself easily when I look at it that that 180 is about cookies. So I know that my y-intercept has to do with 180 cookies. Now I'm going to do the same thing as far as the x-intercept. The x-intercept is where that nice dark line is touching, crossing, or intersecting our horizontal x-axis. And I can see where that's happening, and I'm going to put that in a different color, green, right here at the 6. So I'm going to annotate and label that as our x-intercept. I'm going to do the same thing as far as circling the number to draw my attention to it and what that is about. So I'm going to circle the label. so that I know that my x-intercept of 6 is talking about 6 presentations. And if I was going on to slope, I could start annotating and labeling about the slope, but since this lesson is specific to intercepts, I'm going to leave it at this for now. That's the second read. It's the annotate labeling step. The third read is to focus in on the question. So I'm going to go back to my highlighter. And my question is, which statement is the best description of the y-intercept? And then I'm going to pick out the one word that is asking me to find, determine, or calculate. And in one word, that's asking me to find this, the y-intercept. So now I know I need to go back to what I've already labeled and focus in on the y-intercept. So the y-intercept was at 180 and it dealt with cookies. I'm going to remember how I should write my coordinates for it. But even if I didn't want to go that far, let's say I've forgotten how to write coordinates and I didn't want to annotate that, I could use the fact that I already knew that the y-intercept was 180 to eliminate some 180 cookies, to eliminate some possible wrong answers. I'm going to scroll down and look at that a little bit first, just to give you an idea of how you could use this even if you weren't sure how to write coordinates. Since this is dealing with 180 cookies, that's the y-intercept in red. If I look at answer choice A, it says 180 presentations. Well, 180 is the right number, but presentations is the wrong label. The 180 is with the cookies. So if I remember that, I can use that to eliminate. And then I could keep going from there. But if I do remember how the coordinates work, I want to keep annotating because it's just more information you get, the better and more precise and sure you can be of your answer. So if I remember that my x coordinate comes first and my y coordinate comes second, 180 is my y number for the y-intercept, so it goes in the y position. Intercepts always have a 0, so they go in the x position. And if you're not sure about that, remember you can draw an arrow down from the 180 to the x-axis to see the number it's at, and it's pointing right at that 0. So yes, 0 is the correct number for the x value of that of the intercept. And now I'm going to label the numbers. The 180 is a y number. The y-axis is cookies. That's what it's labeled. So I'm going to put that here. The 0 is the x number. The x-intercept is labeled presentations. So a more complete idea of what the answer is about is that I'm looking for something that references the fact that there's 180 cookies and I haven't even had a presentation yet because there's 0 presentations. So before it even gets started, something about 180 cookies. So if I look down at answer choice B, it says Stacy gives away all of her cookies at 6 presentations. Well, that may be true, and it actually looks like it's correct because where the 6 is marked on the presentations, you're all the way down at the bottom. There's no cookies left. But that's an x-intercept number, and we need the y-intercept number of 180 cookies to be talking about. So while it's true, it's not a good description of our y-intercept, so we can mark it off. Okay, the next one says, after 4 presentations are made, Stacy had 60 cookies left. And again, that could be true. And if I look at where the 4 is on the presentations and come across to the y, it is at the 60 for the cookies. So yes, that is true. But again, it doesn't actually describe the y-intercept. It's not using the correct number, so I can mark it off. The last one says, in the beginning, Stacy had 180 cookies. And that's looking pretty good. It has the right number and label, 180 with the cookies, and in the beginning meaning before the presentations ever started, when there's 0 presentations, she has 180 cookies. So this is the correct answer. That concludes the I do portion of my video, and now we're going to get to the we do portion, where I'm going to talk about how I get the student activity and engagement and feedback in real time. And for that, I like to use this platform that I'm showing you right now, which is Pear Deck. This is the teacher mode. The student mode usually looks pretty similar, except for that it's going to have, for this is a question screen where they can drag this around to answer the question. And what's nice about that is they also have the dashboard screen where then I can see the student's actual answer. This was Jerry's answer, that's me. And if she's right, I can let her know. If the student's wrong, I can provide them feedback and some scaffolding hints because there would be a lot of red dots on the screen for the different students. And when you hover over them, you get to see their name. So I really like that part of the Pear Deck, that it gives you that opportunity to see the students engaging and see their answers and give them the real-time feedback. As you can also put in the videos, and that screen looks a little bit different as well because the student is going to be able to control the video play. But as far as the other question screens, you can set up, this is another type of question screen. Instead of a drag or a drop, they're supposed to be annotating the graph like I was showing in the video. That's why it's got the answers covered up. And their screen looks like this, one that has all the different options for them to like which color they want to use. Do they want to use a pen tool or a text tool to put in the annotations? And then I always also use another screen where I show them how I might have annotated it, what would I might have highlighted, and then give them directions for the next thing, such as use what's on the screen now to eliminate wrong answer choices, and then wait for them to do that and use the dashboard to see their answers, and then proceed on to the next screen to show them how I would have done that. So Pear Deck is really nice for getting that student engagement that you really want, as well as for being able to give them that real-time feedback because you can see their answers in real time.